Welcome back, humans. Hopefully you're going to like this one. We're going old school, and it's probably going to be a multi-parter, this one too. Well, hopefully it's going to be. We've got a CB550. There's a story. There's always a story, as I always say. Ancient old CB550. The guy that owns it bought it from a chap who sadly passed away. Passed away? I am not German. Passed away. He bought it from a guy that passed away. It's an unfinished project. It looks, you'll see more of it in a minute, but it looks like it's been powder coated. I think the wheels have been rebuilt, looking out at the shiny spokes and stuff. It's had a bit of money spent on it, but the story is he can't get the engine to run properly. When I say he, I mean the guy that owns it now. He's done some work on the carbs. He says he's cleaned the carbs. I think he's put a carb repair kit in them. So it looks like there's some new mixture screws and bits and pieces going on. He's also had a mate look at it who says it's got low compression. So there's stuff going on, and I've been tasked with not doing any of the restoration work, but he wants me to get it running properly for him. So I thought it'd be nice if you follow along, share my thought process with you. First thing is going to be make sure there's some oil in it, because I don't even know if there's any oil in it. Battery's completely flat, so I'll put a battery on it, or put a jump pack to it. Put some put some fresh fuel in the carbs, drain the float bowls. Let's just see if we can get it to run or make a noise, and then decide which way we're going to skin it. Okay, let's go. Right, the most important thing, does it have oil? Dippy, not screwy. Check. It's always a good start. Need a jump pack for that. You can see it's battery's buggered. That cell's dry, that cell's dry. I'm not sure if that's coming out on camera, but yeah, battery is required, or a jump pack for now. Right, a little bit of, you've seen this before, I know you have Genius Boost. Okay, let's see if we've got ignition. Right, do we have dash lights? Yes, we do. Do we have an electric start? Yes. Oh, and look, the oil light goes out. It's always a good sign. Right, we need fuel next. Right, so we need to hook up a fuel supply. So we've got an auxiliary fuel supply here. What we got going on? Well, that's slightly worrying. So that pipe is a drain pipe for the float bowl. So that's sticking up in the air. That suggests that it's probably got leaky floats. We'll find out in a minute. This here is the fuel line with a bit of horrible tape on it. So we need to hook up. Is that going to fit in there? Yes. Turn the fuel on and wait for it to flood all over the floor. And set the workshop on fire because I got my log burner going. Right. Let's turn it over, see if it fires, eh? Uh-oh. There's fuel pissing out of the bottom. Where the hell's that coming from? Oh, fucking hell. All the carbs are leaking. Massively. Yeah, that's not really the best of starts. What I'll do is I think I'll try starting it anyway, make sure it's not hydraulicing, and spin it over, see if it does something. I think first job is probably going to be carbs off. It's obviously going to be carbs off. I think I'll probably do a compression test as well, just so we sort of start to get a bit of an overview of what might be going on. because his mate did do a compression test, I think, and suggest that it was low on compression. Let's spin it over, see if it makes any noise. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, it's making noise! Give it a bit of choke. Where the fuck is the choke? Oh, it's got a... Is it doing anything? Maybe. Is it going to stay on? No. Will that tighten up? Yes. It's alive! Not very happy. Right, okay. So the first thing I'm thinking is there's no horrible mechanical noises coming out of it. And it sort of runs. There's no surprise it runs horribly with all that fuel pissing out the bottom. The float needle valves are obviously stuck, and its float heights are all over the place. So nothing horrifically mechanical. Oil light goes out. Ignition system is obviously working. Haven't actually checked. I'm assuming it's still on old school points and condenser. I think my next, I'm trying to build an overview in my mind at the moment, if you see what I mean, see what I'm up against. So next thing, I'll pull the plugs and let's do a compression test and just sort of get a feel for what it's like mechanically. Cool. Right, compression test. So it's probably also worth noting that I'm not really interested in what the plugs look like. They're obviously going to be horrific. Just take all 4 plugs out and let's see. They're quite new, aren't they? Let's see how much wind it's got. Right then, so compression tests. Okay, so I would expect something like this to be in the region of, I'm guessing now because I haven't looked in the book, sort of minimum 160-ish. I'll flash the actual the actual reading on the screen, but yeah, you'd expect sort of 160-ish. You see that gauge there? Obviously full throttle. Now the other thing worth mentioning actually with compression tests, top tip time. So you need to disable the ignition system. Now, not so that it won't start. Obviously it would be a bad idea to have it, have 3 of the cylinders with their HT leads connected and crank it on full throttle. Trying to do a compression test and have it fire up, that would be a no-no. But when I say disable the ignition, I don't just mean pull the HT leads off the spark plugs. I mean actually disable the ignition, so disable the coils. So pull a wire off each of the coils. The reason being, not so critical with old school ignition systems like this, but with modern ignition systems, you can really stress an ignition coil. If you've got the HT leads all disconnected, so that secondary winding has got no ground effectively, and you generate that massive high voltage in the secondary winding of the coil, you can really stress the insulation in the coil, so it's a bad idea. So actually unplug a crank position sensor or pull wires off the coils if they're easy to get to. You understand what I mean. Right, so full throttle, remember, for a compression test for volumetric efficiency reasons. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh, I don't know if you're getting that, but upside down, of course. What's that? Just over 100 psi. That's not good. Okay. So let's go number 2. I'll try to do this in one take so we're not having to do lots of editage. Come back to me. Try that one. We got there, fucking hell, 90 That's bad, very, very bad. And the other two, can't see the other two, can you? I'll hang the gauge over this side so you can have a squiz. If you're interested, of course. You might not be interested, in which case, what the fuck are you watching this video for? Yeah, that's not great. What's it got on the clock? It's got 21,000 miles on the clock. It's not really very many miles for one of these. I don't think we can pay a huge amount of attention to that. This thing's so old now. Was it a 1970 something? Right. Actually, the battery's starting to go flat. That brings me to another top tip. If you're doing a compression test, for goodness sake, make sure you've got a fully charged battery, you know, so that the engine is at cranking speed. Otherwise, you're going to get, if you've got a real slow crank, then you're not going to get the right results. Right, so we're sort of starting to form a little bit of a picture of what's going on here now. We've obviously got fairly major carb issues. Now, what I probably should do, what I might do, no, I'm not going to bother. The head's got to come off regardless. It's got no compression. What I was going to say is, let's do a cylinder leak test. If you want to know what that is, I've got a video somewhere. If I remember, I'll put it in the description of this video, or I have one of those slidey out things, little card for you. It's a video I did years ago called No Wind on was it a Super Tenere? Can't quite remember. But anyway, there's another way of measuring compression, or not compression. There's another way of, obviously this engine has got low compression. Then that begs the question, how's it losing its compression? Is it inlet valve, exhaust valve, or piston rings? Because those are the three places. I mean, technically you could have a head gasket gone or something, but given all four cylinders are all low, it's not like you've just got one cylinder with really low compression. You know, that could potentially, I suppose, be a head gasket problem. I'm suspecting probably exhaust valves. It might be a good idea to run it a little bit more and see if it's smoky as well. So, you know, it could be a glazed bore situation as well. But I think it's, given that it's got to come apart, I'm waffling, aren't I? Given that it's got to come apart now, I'm just going to strip the top end, and then we can visually inspect stuff rather than just, you know, if a customer wanted, waffling Jim, if a customer just wanted to know what was wrong without me spending time stripping the engine, I would do a cylinder leak test, and then I could say you've got leaky exhaust valves, or you've got blow past the rings, or leaky inlet valves, or whatever. I could give him a conclusive answer without spending very much more time on it. But given that he wants it fixed anyway, and I know I've got to take it apart, I'm just going to strip it. We'll pull it. They're easy to do. You get the whole thing apart on one of these. Given as long as there's no seized bolts, you'd have the whole top end off one of these in half an hour. Might even do a time lapse or something for it coming apart. But let's strip it, and then we can actually visually inspect. You know, we can physically see with our eyes what's going on. Anyway, that's going to be the end of part one. As I said earlier, this is going to be a multi-part thing. See you on part two. Thanks, guys. pistons off, but I'm not doing that. What is the time then? So I had, what did I have? I had 48 minutes on the clock. I had 48 minutes left on my memory card when I started, and I've now got, what do we got? 16 minutes. Yeah, baby. I reckon that's quite quick. Anyway, that is actually the end of part 1 now. I will see you on the next one. On the next one, we're going to do lots of measuring. Going to look at bores, talk about how bores wear, what cylinder glazes. We'll take the valves out of the head. We'll do some measuring of valve guides and valve stems, look at valve seats, talk about ways you lose compression, all that sort of good stuff. Anyway, take it easy, guys. That is the end. See you on the next one.